PS 76. I get a phone call or a letter. I never know years later. It's a human contact. It won't be email in most cases. From Tom Goodridge. He used to call him Goodrich for years, and he was too polite to correct me. This is about 5 years ago. Who's a special ed teacher at PS 76 in Harlem. And he loves our soap, and he heard an interview on the local affiliate of NPR in New York. And this was interesting. I didn't know I was on there. And I had sent 12 cases of soap to a bunch of people in New York that I love. Off-Broadway producer who ends up doing a movie on my life, Sarah Lamm, and the movie is Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps. Adaku Nairobi in Harlem in a tiny apartment with her daughter Olama, who is helping over 3,000 street women in unemployed, prostitutes, homeless in Nigeria become nursing assistants. A photographer that right now I forget the name. And Sarah Lamm had contacts, and she got an interview that got on the radio. One is, how does a man in Milwaukee, Wisconsin end up sending soap to these people who are going door to door after 9/11 to give away soap to get rid of the smell of 9/11, which many people don't know permeated, stayed for years in the area, in the apartments, and so on. He had heard the interview, didn't know we were that giving a company, and wanted to know if I could send them soap. I was in New York. Sarah Lamm had me do an off-Broadway show and so on, with no rehearsal, no script. And so I called Tom Goodrich and say, I've got the soap, I'm going to bring it. He was astounded, as he said later. Nobody goes out of their way to get to Harlem. So I show up, and I was nervous the night before. I taught inner city and gotten burned out for 32 years, and 7th and 8th graders can be really tough, and Harlem, 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 you know the stereotype of it. I was so astounded. I come to Harlem, I got a case of soap, I'm going up the stairs, and almost all black children and a mixed race staff. A little black kid comes up and says, you must be the soap man. And I'm down the hall, you must be the soap man that's coming to sing for us, and so on. And that's where I found the incredible love and beauty of inner city children who will love anybody who will give them some attention. I find it better and more appreciative in the inner cities of America because they don't have the iPods in the ear and the computer to stare at. They want human contact. And it was summed up by the most remarkable sentence from thousands openings that I receive. I have a drawer filled with thank yous from kids. 3 to 8 is my favorite audience. This one was, Dear Dr. Bronner, I'm 6 years old. I love you and I may take you out. Now, the last part really cracks people up because what is it contingent on? She's 21. She gets $1. Her mom lets her. I went back the next year because it was so wonderful. And because of my cynical friends, the first time I went out of my way, I was alone. Gisela, my wife, wouldn't even think of doing this. I rode a bus from Union Station through Harlem, out the other end, and back on a different street on a warm Saturday night, just so neighbors couldn't say, yeah, you're lucky you survived, you were in kindergarten. And what I saw just was incredible. It was like a kaleidoscope of a beautiful summer Saturday night. Doors were open. I'm looking at it through a bus window, and things flashed by. I even saw our soap and health food store, the door open and that. 3 teenagers on the bus shouted back at the driver, thank you, sir, because he had given them directions. It was Mother's Day, and some black ladies got on and joked with the bus driver, where's my Mother's Day present? Tom Goodridge took me to a Jamaican restaurant 3 blocks away, and he must have been hugged and handshake 10 different times. Tom, good to see you. It was astounding because the media's portrayal of Harlem will always stay at its worst because of this small thing. When I get back home, I write the New York Times. And I'm not Joe Blow tourist. I've taught 32 years inner city. I travel with a guitar all over America. I've sung everywhere from country to city, from poor to rich. And I'm telling them that PS 76 was one of the finest experiences I ever had. And I ended with that beautiful, Dear Dr. Bronner, I'm 6 years old. I love you and I may take you out. I never heard from them. I faxed them figuring maybe it got lost in the mail. I'd love to be with the editors when they get that letter, and the rationale about throwing it in the wastebasket. I sarcastically said to people, maybe they get so many letters from cheeseheads that love singing in Harlem They didn't want to print another one. And this is what is wrong with the American media. I use this example around America. If I had been shot, would you have read about it? Of course, it would make a juicy headline. Cheesehead killed singing for kids in Harlem. If I molested children, would you have read more? Of course. Think of Michael Jackson and the guy from Indonesia that falsely confessed to killing this little girl. The world's media was there. I've told them how wonderful it is. I don't even get a reply. And it wasn't superficial. I went back the next year. And last year, the girl, I forget her name, wasn't there. And Erin took her place. Picture this. I've had a wonderful time. I end up singing. I'm like a hero at PS 76. And one of the kids wants my autograph, 9 years old, special ed. So I'm sprawled across the table writing big to Erin, and I had a ball. And he interrupts me with a request. No. He says, "You're famous, aren't you?" And my heart ants better than my head, because that's a great question, and it's hard to figure out what answer would please him. Of course, he wants me to be famous, but I'm literally not famous. And what I ended up saying to him was from the heart. I said, "Only with those that love me." He hugs me and says, "I love you." Is that the Harlem that you people have heard about?